Long before the towering ziggurats of Ur or the mighty walls of Babylon, there was a land cradled between two ancient rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates. This fertile crescent, now largely within modern-day Iraq and parts of Syria, Turkey, and Iran, would become the stage upon which the first great drama of human civilization was written. But how did it all begin? What secrets lie beneath the soil of Mesopotamia? And who were the first to walk these lands and sow the seeds of history? To understand the origins of Mesopotamia, we must journey back to the end of the last ice age, roughly 12,000 years ago, around 10,000 BCE. At this time, the climate was changing rapidly. Glaciers were retreating, and the world was becoming warmer and wetter. These changes brought life to the valleys of the Tigris and Euphrates. Here, small groups of nomadic hunter-gatherers began to settle, forming the earliest known human communities. This era, known as the Neolithic Revolution, was not just a change in lifestyle, it was a transformation of the human condition. The people who settled in this region discovered that the rich alluvial soil deposited by the two rivers was ideal for agriculture. They began cultivating wheat and barley, domesticating animals like goats and sheep, and constructing permanent dwellings. These were the first steps toward civilization. Archaeological evidence from sites like Jarmo in northern Iraq shows that people were living in organized villages as early as 7000 BCE. These early settlements had storage rooms for grain, tools for farming, and even religious artifacts, suggesting a complex and spiritually aware society. But the origins of Mesopotamian culture may lie even deeper in time and mystery. Consider Göbekli Tepe, an archaeological site in southeastern Turkey dating back to at least 9600 BCE. This site, predating Stonehenge by over 6,000 years, consists of massive stone pillars arranged in circular formations. The pillars are adorned with carvings of animals and abstract symbols. What is striking is that the people who built Göbekli Tepe were still considered hunter-gatherers. They had not yet adopted agriculture. Yet they had the knowledge, organization, and will to construct a monumental sacred site. Many scholars now believe that Göbekli Tepe may have been a proto-religious center that influenced later Mesopotamian spiritual traditions. The notion that religion or spirituality could have preceded agriculture challenges conventional views and suggests that the human desire to connect with the divine may have been the original driving force behind settled life and community. As time passed, more permanent and complex societies began to emerge. By 5000 BCE, the Ubaid culture had taken root in southern Mesopotamia. These people constructed large villages with multi-room houses made of mud bricks, cultivated irrigated fields, and developed early forms of social hierarchy. The Ubaid people also began building temples, the prototypes of the grand ziggurats that would come later. These temples were not merely places of worship, they were administrative centers, economic hubs, and symbols of emerging political power. Around 4000 BCE, the Ubaid culture evolved into what we now call the Uruk period, named after the city of Uruk, which is considered the first true city in history. Uruk was a marvel of its time, with a population that may have reached 50,000, making it the largest human settlement on Earth at that time. It had monumental architecture, including the White Temple, and a complex bureaucracy to manage resources and labor. It was in Uruk that one of the most profound inventions in human history occurred: writing. The earliest form of writing, known as cuneiform, began as simple pictographs etched into clay tablets. These early scripts were used for accounting, recording trade, and documenting religious rituals. Over time, cuneiform evolved into a sophisticated system capable of expressing abstract thought, history, law, and literature. The invention of writing transformed Mesopotamian society. It allowed for the codification of laws, the preservation of myths and epics, and the establishment of a historical record. One of the earliest known pieces of literature, the Epic of Gilgamesh, comes from Mesopotamia. This story, part myth and part history, tells the tale of a legendary king who seeks immortality and wrestles with the meaning of life and death. But the secrets of Mesopotamia go beyond what was written. Beneath the layers of earth lie cities yet to be uncovered, languages yet to be deciphered, and myths waiting to be reinterpreted. Some scholars speculate about the existence of even older civilizations beneath the known Mesopotamian layers, lost cultures that might have influenced the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Babylonians. Mysteries abound. How did early Mesopotamians acquire such advanced knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and engineering? Some believe that this knowledge was inherited from a forgotten ancestor culture. Others speculate more wildly, proposing contact with advanced beings or visitors from the stars, a theory popularized by ancient astronaut theorists. One recurring motif in Mesopotamian mythology is the notion of knowledge being given to humans by divine beings. The god Enki, for instance, is said to have gifted humanity with the Me, a set of divine decrees or technologies that brought order to chaos. These myths raise fascinating questions. Were these stories purely symbolic, or do they hint at real events and lost knowledge? As we dig deeper into Mesopotamia's past, we also find evidence of cataclysmic events, massive floods, shifting rivers, and sudden climate changes. Some of these events are recorded in myths, like the flood story in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which closely parallels the biblical tale of Noah. Could these stories be memories of real disasters? And if so, what impact did they have on the rise and fall of ancient cultures? Another mystery is the origin of the Sumerians, the first identifiable civilization in Mesopotamia. Their language has no known relatives, and their arrival in southern Mesopotamia remains unexplained. Some suggest they migrated from a now-lost homeland, while others propose they were native to the region. Their unique script, art, and cosmology set them apart from all other known ancient peoples. As we conclude this first episode, one thing becomes clear. The origins of Mesopotamia are as fascinating as they are mysterious. From the earliest settlers in the Fertile Crescent to the rise of city-states like Uruk, the story of Mesopotamia is a story of innovation, spirituality, and the relentless human quest for meaning and mastery over the world. But this is just the beginning. In the next episode, we will journey into the heart of Sumer, a land of gods, kings, and cities that reached for the heavens. We will uncover the secrets of their temples, the mysteries of their myths, and the truths hidden in the oldest stories ever told. Stay curious, for the sands of time have only just begun to speak. Builders of the first cities and gateways to the gods. As the dust of prehistory settles, rising from the southern plains of Mesopotamia emerges a culture unlike any before it, the Sumerians. Their origin remains one of the great mysteries of the ancient world. Who were these people with a language that had no known relatives? How did they construct such grand cities in a land of shifting rivers and blistering heat? And what secrets lie within their myths, temples, and writings? By around 3500 BCE, the Sumerians had firmly established themselves in southern Mesopotamia. They built some of the world's first true cities, Eridu, Uruk, Ur, Lagash, Nippur, and others. These cities were marvels of urban planning. They had organized streets, centralized temples, irrigation systems, and granaries to store surplus grain. But these were not just economic or administrative hubs. They were spiritual centers where humans and gods were believed to commune. Each Sumerian city was dedicated to a particular deity and functioned as a theocratic state. The temple, or ziggurat, dominated the city skyline. These towering stepped structures were thought to be the dwelling places of the gods on earth. The most famous ziggurat at Ur still stands in ruins today, bearing silent witness to a civilization that reached for the heavens. Sumerian religion was deeply intricate. The gods were many: Anu, sky god; Enlil, lord of wind and storms; Enki, god of wisdom and water; Inanna, goddess of love and war, and many others. They were not distant or abstract beings. They were deeply involved in human affairs, sometimes benevolent, often capricious. Temples were staffed with priests, priestesses, scribes, and musicians. Rituals included offerings, processions, and even sexual rites in some temples, thought to ensure fertility and cosmic harmony. One of the most intriguing aspects of Sumerian belief was their mythological narratives. The creation myths, the tales of divine rivalries, and especially the Epic of Gilgamesh provide a window into how they viewed existence. In the epic, Gilgamesh, a semi-divine king of Uruk, seeks immortality after the death of his companion Enkidu. His journey takes him through lands of myth, across oceans, and finally to Utnapishtim, the Sumerian counterpart to Noah, who survived a great flood and was granted eternal life. The story of the flood is eerily similar to accounts in the Hebrew Bible and other ancient cultures. In it, the gods grow angry at humanity's noise and corruption, deciding to wipe them out. Enki, however, warns Utnapishtim, who builds a boat to save his family and animals. After the flood, the gods regret their decision. This myth raises questions about shared memory among ancient cultures. Did such a flood occur? Could this story have originated from a real climatic disaster in the region? Beyond the myths, the Sumerians developed extraordinary innovations. They invented the wheel, the plow, and advanced irrigation techniques. Their mathematics was sexagesimal, base 60, giving us the 60-minute hour and 360-degree circle. Their astronomy was precise. They tracked planetary movements and developed a lunar calendar. How did they acquire such knowledge so early? The answer may lie in their temples and priesthood. Temples weren't just places of worship, they were centers of learning. Priests acted as scientists, astronomers, mathematicians, and healers. They recorded celestial events, predicted eclipses, and regulated agricultural cycles. Some tablets even describe medical procedures and pharmacological recipes. It appears that within the sacred was embedded the scientific. The invention of cuneiform writing around 3200 BCE transformed their world. At first used for accounting, it evolved into a tool for literature, law, science, and administration. Thousands of clay tablets have survived, detailing everything from epic poems and royal decrees to school exercises and business transactions. One tablet contains the oldest known customer complaint, a letter from a disgruntled copper buyer named Nani. Sumerian society was highly organized. At the top were the priest kings, intermediaries between the gods and the people. Below them were officials, scribes, merchants, craftsmen, farmers, and slaves. Women had rights that would vanish in later civilizations. They could own property, run businesses, and serve in religious roles, particularly as priestesses of Inanna. Yet mysteries persist. The Sumerian king list, a remarkable document, records the reigns of ancient kings, some said to have ruled for tens of thousands of years. The list separates those who reigned before the flood from those who ruled afterward. While most historians see the list as mythological, others wonder if it preserves a fragment of a forgotten epoch, a prehistoric age of greatness now lost to time. Even more enigmatic are the references to the Anunnaki, a group of powerful deities who came to Earth from the heavens. According to some interpretations, the Anunnaki created humans from clay to serve them. Some modern theorists, notably in fringe circles, claim that these beings were extraterrestrials who genetically engineered humanity. While mainstream archaeology dismisses such ideas, the persistence and depth of these myths are worth exploring. The Sumerians also spoke of Eden, a lush and fertile place from which humanity was expelled after gaining knowledge. The similarity to the biblical Eden is striking. Did the story of Eden originate in Sumer? Was it a real place, a metaphor, or something else entirely? In artistic expression, the Sumerians were pioneers. Cylinder seals, small carved stones, rolled onto clay to leave an impression, depict elaborate scenes of gods, rituals, and daily life. Statues with large, staring eyes suggest a culture intensely focused on the divine. Music was also central. Lyres, flutes, and drums accompanied rituals and festivals. Trade networks stretched far beyond Mesopotamia. Sumerian merchants traveled as far as the Indus Valley and Anatolia, exchanging textiles, metals, and precious stones. These connections helped spread ideas and technologies, and may explain cultural similarities between distant ancient peoples. However, their civilization was not immune to conflict. City-states frequently warred with each other for resources and dominance. Fortifications, weapons, and military records show a society well-versed in warfare. Eventually, internal strife and external invasions weakened the Sumerians. Around 2334 BCE, Sargon of Akkad conquered Sumer, uniting the region into the world's first empire. Still, the Sumerian legacy endured. Their language continued to be used for religious and scholarly purposes long after their political power faded. Their myths and technologies influenced later cultures, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, and even the Hebrews and Greeks, as archaeologists continue to unearth ruins and translate tablets. The story of the Sumerians grows richer and stranger. Beneath the dust of millennia lie forgotten temples, unknown gods, and untold stories that challenge our understanding of where we come from. In many ways, the Sumerians were the original stargazers, storytellers, and builders of destiny. They were the first to ask the big questions. Who are we? Where did we come from? What is our purpose? In our next episode, we will follow the rise of the Akkadians and Assyrians, empires built on conquest, knowledge, and hidden power. We will explore their vast libraries, mysterious technologies, and dark secrets buried in stone. Follow Notebook of Secrets for more videos. Akkadians and Assyrians, war, empire, and hidden knowledge. As the light of Sumer began to dim, a new force emerged from the north, one that would reshape Mesopotamia into the world's first empire and introduce an age of conquest, consolidation, and secret wisdom. These were the Akkadians, and later the Assyrians, civilizations known for their military strength, imperial ambition, and enigmatic achievements. But behind the walls of their great cities and libraries lay more than brute power. Buried in clay tablets and stone carvings were arcane texts, celestial maps, and mysterious rituals that hint at a deeper knowledge, one still being uncovered by modern archaeologists and researchers. The rise of the Akkadian Empire began around 2334 BCE with a figure shrouded in both legend and historical fact, Sargon of Akkad. A man of humble origins, raised by a gardener, Sargon claimed to have been chosen by the goddess Inanna herself. He unified the Sumerian city-states through diplomacy and brutal conquest, establishing the Akkadian Empire, the first multi-ethnic, centrally administered empire in history. The capital of this empire was Akkad, a city whose precise location remains lost to this day, an enduring mystery in Mesopotamian archaeology. Akkad became a center of administration, trade, and culture. The Akkadians adapted Sumerian cuneiform to their own Semitic language, creating a powerful tool for bureaucracy, religion, and record-keeping. Under Sargon and his successors, such as Naram-Sin, the empire stretched from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. Naram-Sin, Sargon's grandson, declared himself a god, one of the first rulers in history to do so. His famous stele shows him climbing a mountain in triumph, towering over his enemies, with celestial symbols above him. This divine kingship was not just political. It signaled a merging of human and cosmic order. The rulers were now seen as intermediaries between gods and men, possibly even semi-divine beings themselves. But as quickly as it rose, the Akkadian Empire fell into decline. By 254 BCE, it had collapsed due to a combination of internal strife, rebellion, and what scholars now believe was a severe climate crisis, a multi-decade drought that devastated agriculture and led to widespread famine. This environmental collapse is recorded in ancient laments that speak of cities emptied, fields turned to dust, and the silence of the gods. Yet, the Akkadian legacy lived on, especially in their innovations. They were masters of astronomy and timekeeping, refining lunar calendars and tracking the movements of celestial bodies. Some surviving star charts suggest a sophistication that has puzzled modern historians. Were the Akkadians merely keen observers, or did they inherit their knowledge from even more ancient sources? As centuries passed, the north of Mesopotamia saw the rise of another power, the Assyrians. Beginning as a modest city-state centered around Ashur, they grew into one of the most formidable empires in history. By 900 BCE, under kings like Tiglath-Pileser III, Sargon II, and Ashurbanipal, the Assyrians controlled a vast territory stretching from Egypt to Iran. What set the Assyrians apart was not just their military prowess, but their administrative sophistication and devotion to knowledge. They built extensive road systems, utilized efficient postal services, and created one of the earliest examples of imperial governance. But within their palaces and temples, especially in Nineveh, they also amassed an astonishing treasure trove of learning. The library of Ashurbanipal, discovered in the 19th century, contained over 30,000 clay tablets covering subjects such as medicine, magic, astronomy, mathematics, literature, and religion. Among these texts was the full version of the Epic of Gilgamesh, ancient medical texts, and complex star charts. Some of these tablets contain detailed observations of the planets, eclipses, and even mathematical formulas that resemble trigonometry. Ashurbanipal himself claimed to be able to read cuneiform and understand the languages of Sumer and Akkad, a scholar king who preserved ancient texts from previous ages. But why? Some speculate that the Assyrians believed they were the inheritors of secret knowledge passed down from the gods. In fact, many tablets describe rituals to invoke the favor of deities or to communicate with spirits and divine intelligences. Among the most mysterious are the astrological texts and omen series, such as the Enuma, Anu, and Lil, which interpret celestial events as signs of divine will. Eclipses, meteor showers, and planetary alignments were not merely natural occurrences. They were messages from the heavens, coded in a language only the trained priest astronomers could decipher. Assyrian reliefs often show winged beings, half man, half animal, interacting with sacred trees or holding strange instruments. Some scholars interpret these figures as representations of gods or angels. Others, including fringe theorists, propose they depict ancient astronauts or beings with advanced knowledge. While such interpretations remain speculative, the recurring themes of hybrid beings, sacred symbols, and cosmic alignment cannot be dismissed easily. Weapons and war dominated Assyrian life, but so did ritual and prophecy. Before every major battle or construction project, priests would perform elaborate ceremonies, read omens from animal livers, and consult dream texts. Divination was central to statecraft, suggesting a worldview in which the spiritual and political realms were inseparable. Despite their power, the Assyrians were often feared and hated by their subjects due to their brutal methods. Rebellions were crushed, cities razed, and populations deported. Yet even in this cruelty, they recorded everything meticulously. Wall reliefs show campaigns, tributes, and acts of terror, but also music, gardens, and scenes of leisure. The fall of Assyria came swiftly. In 612 BCE, a coalition of Babylonians, Medes, and Scythians sacked Nineveh, destroying the Assyrian Empire. But in the ashes, the knowledge they had preserved lived on. The Babylonians inherited their libraries, tools, and sciences. One of the enduring mysteries of the Akkadian and Assyrian periods is the transmission of knowledge. Did these civilizations develop everything independently, or were they the stewards of a much older tradition? Tablets sometimes refer to the antediluvian sages, mythical figures who lived before the Great Flood and brought knowledge to humankind. Known as the Apkallu, these beings were said to be part human, part divine, and were associated with the earliest temples and libraries. These Apkallu appear in Assyrian carvings as bearded, winged figures, often holding a bag or cone-shaped object. Their role was to guard and preserve divine wisdom. Modern interpretations vary. Some say they represent ancient priests, others claim they are symbols of a lost civilization, or even extraterrestrial beings who intervened in human history. The fascination with hidden knowledge did not end with the fall of Mesopotamian empires. Greek philosophers such as Pythagoras and Plato wrote of ancient wisdom preserved in the East. Some believe that the mysteries of Mesopotamia traveled westward, influencing Egyptian, Hebrew, and Hellenistic thought. In secret societies, alchemical traditions, and esoteric philosophies, echoes of Mesopotamian cosmology and symbology continue to resonate. As modern archaeologists continue to excavate and translate the vast archive left by these empires, new discoveries constantly reshape our understanding. Tablets hidden for millennia are revealing surgical techniques, lost languages, and even references to stars, only visible with advanced instruments. In this dance between myth and history, between empire and enigma, the Akkadians and Assyrians stand as titanic figures, not just conquerors, but custodians of a forgotten knowledge that may still have much to teach us. In the next episode, we turn our gaze to Babylon, a city of beauty, mathematics, magic, and myth. We'll explore the legendary hanging gardens, the mysterious Tower of Babel, and the rituals that once echoed through its golden streets. The journey into Mesopotamia's hidden past is far from over. Babylon magic, mathematics, and the tower to the heavens. Amid the golden sands of ancient Mesopotamia rose a city of splendor and shadow, ambition and enigma, Babylon. More than a city, Babylon was an idea, a seat of kings, a beacon of learning, and, in the eyes of many, a place where the divine and the profane coexisted. While its name has become synonymous with decadence in religious texts, history paints a more nuanced picture. Babylon was a city of mathematics, magic, and myth, a crucible of intellectual power and spiritual complexity whose secrets still echo in the foundations of modern civilization. The rise of Babylon. Babylon began as a modest town during the Akkadian Empire, but rose to prominence under the Amorite king Hammurabi in the 18th century BCE. Hammurabi is best known for his code of laws, etched into stone in cuneiform script and displayed publicly. While often remembered for its principle of an eye for an eye, the code was also a legal framework designed to ensure justice, order, and economic stability. The laws covered commerce, property, marriage, and even medical malpractice. Under Hammurabi and later rulers, Babylon became a center of administrative sophistication and urban development. But it wasn't until the Neo-Babylonian Empire, especially under Nebuchadnezzar II, reigned 605 to 562 BCE, that the city reached its legendary height. Nebuchadnezzar transformed Babylon into the most magnificent city of the ancient world. Greek historians like Herodotus marveled at its walls, wide avenues, and sprawling temples. The city was laid out with mathematical precision, organized into districts with grand processions held along the processional way, culminating at the Ishtar Gate, a dazzling structure of blue-glazed bricks adorned with lions, dragons, and bulls. The Hanging Gardens, a lost wonder. One of the enduring mysteries of Babylon is the Hanging Gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. According to legend, Nebuchadnezzar built the gardens for his wife, who missed the green hills of her homeland. The gardens were said to feature terrace structures with cascading plants, irrigated through an advanced mechanical system. However, no definitive archaeological evidence of the Hanging Gardens has been found in Babylon. Some scholars propose that the gardens were actually located in Nineveh, the Assyrian capital. Others believe the descriptions were poetic exaggerations, or that the gardens were destroyed and erased by time. Still, the idea persists, a lush paradise suspended in the heart of a desert empire, a feat of both engineering and love. The Tower of Babel. Fact or fable? Another iconic structure attributed to Babylon is the Tower of Babel. The Book of Genesis describes a tower built to reach the heavens, halted by God through the confusion of language. While this story is mythologized, it may have roots in reality. Babylon housed a colossal ziggurat called Itemenanki, dedicated to the god Marduk. This stepped tower, believed to be over 90 meters tall, would have dominated the skyline. Its name means House of the Foundation of Heaven and Earth. The biblical tale may have been inspired by the awe non-Babylonians felt upon seeing such a structure. The confusion of tongues could symbolize the diverse populations and languages of Babylon, which was indeed a cosmopolitan hub. Or perhaps the story warns of the hubris of humanity, a cautionary tale against reaching too high. Marduk, magic, and the priesthood. At the heart of Babylonian religion stood Marduk, the patron deity of the city. He rose to supremacy in the Babylonian pantheon through the Enuma Elish, a creation myth in which Marduk defeats the primordial chaos goddess Tiamat and creates the world from her remains. In return, the gods grant him kingship over heaven and earth. The Enuma Elish is more than a myth. It's a symbolic blueprint for Babylonian kingship. The king was seen as Marduk's earthly representative, charged with maintaining order, ma'at, and warding off chaos. Magic and ritual were central to this belief system. Babylonian priests were highly trained specialists who performed incantations, interpreted omens, and conducted elaborate purification ceremonies. They utilized extensive libraries of magical texts, known as exorcistic literature, to heal illnesses, drive out demons, and invoke divine favor. One such compendium, the Maklu series, was used in anti-witchcraft rituals. The line between science and sorcery was thin. Astronomy, medicine, and magic were all part of a unified worldview. A priest astronomer could predict an eclipse and interpret it as a divine omen. Babylonian mathematics and astronomy. Perhaps most astonishing was Babylon's contribution to mathematics and astronomy. Babylonian scholars developed a base 60, sexagesimal numerical system, still reflected in our 60-minute hours and 360-degree circles. They solved quadratic equations, calculated square roots, and used sophisticated geometric principles. Clay tablets, such as Plimpton 322, reveal that Babylonians understood Pythagorean triples over a millennium before Pythagoras. They used these techniques for practical and religious purposes, measuring land, constructing buildings, and tracking celestial phenomena. Babylonian astronomers meticulously recorded the movements of stars and planets. They could predict lunar and solar eclipses and recognized planetary cycles. Their data would later influence Greek and Islamic astronomy. They saw the heavens as a divine script, a cosmic language to be read and interpreted. Some tablets suggest they even tracked the Saros cycle, a period of approximately 18 years, used to predict eclipses, a feat of astronomical precision. These insights were likely guarded by a learned elite, passing knowledge from generation to generation in temple schools. Symbols, secrecy, and influence. The city of Babylon became a symbol as much as a place. To Hebrews in exile, it represented decadence, oppression, and divine judgment. In the book of Revelation, Babylon the Great becomes a metaphor for a sinful world doomed to fall. But to others, Babylon symbolized wisdom and sophistication. Greek philosophers visited Babylon to learn from its scholars. Later, esoteric traditions, including Gnosticism, Hermeticism, and Kabbalah, drew upon Babylonian cosmology and numerology. Some secret societies even claimed lineage from Babylonian priesthoods, perpetuating their sacred symbols and ritual language. Certain motifs, like the eight-pointed star of Ishtar, the winged disk of the sun, god Shamash, or the entwined serpents of healing deities, appear in later cultures, religions, and occult systems. Even the term Babylon continues to evoke mystery, power, and ancient wisdom. The fall and echoes of Babylon. Despite its grandeur, Babylon's fate was sealed by the currents of history. In 539 BCE, it fell to Cyrus the Great of Persia. According to legend, the Persians diverted the Euphrates River to enter the city by stealth. Cyrus portrayed himself as a liberator, respecting local customs and even restoring the Jewish exiles to their homeland. Yet, over time, Babylon declined. Alexander the Great dreamed of making it his capital, but he died there in 323 BCE. The city slowly faded, its bricks reused, its temples forgotten. By the time of the Islamic era, Babylon was a ruin, though its legacy endured in scripture, legend, and stone. What remains hidden? Modern excavations have revealed only a fraction of Babylon's ancient glory. Much of the city remains unexcavated, buried beneath centuries of silt and war. Political instability has hindered exploration, and many artifacts have been looted or lost. But the mystery persists. What texts lie hidden in the earth? What innovations were lost when the libraries burned? Could the Babylonian priesthood have preserved scientific and mystical knowledge that has yet to be rediscovered? In the mathematics of their scribes, in the alignment of their temples, in the myths encoded on their tablets, the Babylonians hinted at a grand interconnected vision of reality. One in which numbers, stars, gods, and fate were intertwined. The legacy Babylon's legacy is profound. Its intellectual traditions shaped the foundations of science, law, and religion. Its stories inspired prophets and poets, and its ruins still call out to those seeking to understand the roots of civilization. In the next and final episode, we will explore the fall of Mesopotamia, the dispersion of its secrets, and how echoes of this lost world still shape modern thought, architecture, and belief. From the sands of Iraq to the symbols in Western mystery schools, the spirit of Mesopotamia endures. The cradle of civilization may have fallen silent, but its whispers remain, waiting to be heard once more. The fall and legacy. Mesopotamian secrets in modern times. The sun eventually set on Mesopotamia, but its shadow remains cast across the world. From the ruins of Babylon to the sacred texts of world religions, the heartbeats of long-dead empires still echo in our language, architecture, philosophy, and science. This final episode is not merely a story of decline, but a journey into how Mesopotamia's secrets survived conquest and time, subtly shaping the modern world in ways both seen and unseen. The fall of great cities. By the 6th century BCE, the power of Mesopotamian civilizations had begun to fade. The Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great captured Babylon in 539 BCE without bloodshed, marking the end of Babylonian independence. Cyrus's arrival was welcomed by many, and he famously allowed the exiled Jews to return to Jerusalem. This event is even recorded in the Hebrew Bible, portraying Cyrus as a divinely appointed liberator. However, with the Persian conquest came gradual cultural erosion. The great temples fell into disuse. The priesthood lost its influence. Over the next centuries, Mesopotamia would be controlled by Greeks under Alexander the Great, the Seleucid Empire, the Parthians, Romans, Sassanids, and eventually the Islamic caliphates. Each new power brought change. Greek became the language of scholarship. Zoroastrianism and later Islam transformed spiritual life. The once dominant Sumerian and Akkadian languages disappeared, replaced by Aramaic and Arabic. Cities like Uruk, and Nineveh were abandoned, swallowed by earth and time. But even as the bricks crumbled and the scribes were silenced, the knowledge of Mesopotamia was never entirely lost. Preserved in clay, thanks to the durability of clay tablets, tens of thousands of Mesopotamian texts have survived. Buried in libraries, palaces, and temples, these tablets remained hidden until rediscovered by archaeologists in the 19th and 20th centuries. The most famous collection is from the Library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, containing over 30,000 texts on subjects ranging from astrology and medicine to mythology and mathematics. Among them, the Epic of Gilgamesh, omen series like Enuma, Anu, Enlil, legal codes, and detailed star charts. These documents revealed that ancient Mesopotamians mapped the night sky with incredible precision, practiced sophisticated medicine, understood algebra and geometry, developed early forms of logic and classification. This rediscovery sparked a re-evaluation of human history, moving the birthplace of civilization further back in time and eastward in geography. Religious legacy and hidden influences. Many of the world's major religions contain echoes of Mesopotamian beliefs. The flood story in the book of Genesis closely parallels the tale of Utnapishtim in the Epic of Gilgamesh. The concept of the Garden of Eden mirrors Sumerian myths about a fertile paradise called Eden, a place of divine presence and abundance. The Tower of Babel legend, with its confusion of languages, finds resonance in the multicultural nature of Babylon and the ziggurat of Itemenanki. The Ten Commandments and Hammurabi's Code share ethical and legal parallels. Some scholars suggest that apocalyptic imagery in Jewish and Christian scriptures, such as multi-headed beasts and winged creatures, originates from Mesopotamian symbolism found in temple reliefs and mythic texts. Even angelology, the hierarchy of angels and demons, has precedence in the Anunnaki and the Apkallu, divine beings that interacted with humanity. Esoteric survival. While much of Mesopotamian religion faded, some elements may have survived in esoteric traditions, secret societies, and mystical philosophies. During the Hellenistic period, scholars in Alexandria, Babylon, and beyond began blending Babylonian astrology with Greek philosophy and Egyptian spirituality. This fusion birthed Hermeticism, alchemy, and early Gnosticism. These traditions preserved Babylonian cosmology, heavenly spheres, fate and planetary influence, sacred mathematics and numerology, concepts of divine intermediaries and sacred texts, mystery schools in antiquity, from the Eleusinian mysteries in Greece to Zoroastrian magi in Persia, may have drawn from Mesopotamian ritual structures. The idea of secret knowledge handed down from an enlightened priesthood, possibly the Apkallu, resonates in the legends of Freemasonry, Rosicrucians, and Kabbalistic orders. Some fringe theorists go further, suggesting that ancient Mesopotamians preserved knowledge of lost civilizations, extraterrestrial contact, or forgotten technologies. While mainstream historians remain skeptical, these ideas reflect a deeper human yearning to uncover what the ancients truly knew: architecture and symbols in the modern world. The influence of Mesopotamia persists even in modern architecture and symbolism. Government buildings in Washington, D.C. and Europe are adorned with pillars, winged discs, lions, and rosettes drawn from ancient Mesopotamian iconography. The concept of a ziggurat, a stepped sacred mountain, echoes in structures like the pyramids, temples, and even the skyscrapers of today, symbolizing mankind's attempt to bridge earth and heaven. The eight-pointed star of Inanna, Ishtar, a symbol of Venus, appears in art, jewelry, and logos. The use of the caduceus, two serpents entwined around a staff, often mistakenly used as a symbol of medicine, may trace back to Ningish-Sida, a Sumerian god associated with healing and the underworld, archaeological suppression, and unanswered questions. Despite the wealth of evidence, many questions remain. Why were some cities completely abandoned while others survived? How advanced were Mesopotamian sciences before later empires claimed them? What secrets lie in texts still untranslated or hidden in private collections? Some researchers claim that certain findings from Mesopotamian sites have been deliberately withheld or downplayed. Tablets that describe technological artifacts, maps of the stars, or references to flying objects are often reclassified as myth or misinterpreted. Whether this is caution, conservatism, or a genuine cover-up remains debated. Moreover, wars and political instability in modern Iraq and Syria have made further exploration difficult. Sites are looted, monuments destroyed, and museums under threat. Yet the ground still holds secrets. Entire ancient cities, even possibly Akkad itself, remain undiscovered. Mesopotamia's gift to humanity. Despite its fall, Mesopotamia gave us the first written language, the earliest legal systems, the first schools and libraries, deep mythologies that explore human nature, mortality, and the divine, the foundations of astrology, medicine, and mathematics. In many ways, Mesopotamia lives on every time we tell a story about a great flood, use a 60-minute clock, look to the stars for meaning, debate justice, law, and ethics, build towers and temples, closing reflections. Mesopotamia was not just the cradle of civilization, it was the cradle of memory. It reminds us that we are not the first to ask the great questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What is our destiny? Its temples may be dust, its gods forgotten, but its wisdom flows like the Tigris and Euphrates, sometimes buried, sometimes revealed, always moving. We have walked the timeline from hunter-gatherers settling near rivers to the architects of cities and seekers of stars. We've uncovered ziggurats, deciphered epics, and glimpsed the minds of the first mathematicians, poets, and priests. As this series concludes, one truth stands tall. The story of Mesopotamia is not over. It lives in us, in our laws, our myths, our symbols, and our collective soul. The sands may cover the cities, but the spirit of Mesopotamia endures. Stay curious, stay fearless, and never stop seeking the secrets written in stone.